Aaron, welcome to the show.
Hey, Gavin, good to
Nice,
see you, man.
nice to see you in person. We can tell the audience we met over Clubhouse, the new social media app, but all you see is people's little avatar. You never get to see their smiling face outside of that. I'm gonna roll the intro and then we'll start the show. All right, you are the writer and the director of Where the Shadow Falls, or just Shadows plural, or just the director?
uh, Writer, director. I did the storyboards, the editing, and the set design as well.
See, that's where it qualifies for you to use the term filmmaker. That's what I was. People always ask me what I do. I'm like, I can list all the things. There's got
Yeah,
to be a word for filmmaker, and that just like qualifies that you do more than wear more than one hat, which I think is common in indie film. I don't know that many indie films where somebody's like, I just got to direct because I had all the money in the world to hire everyone else that I needed to do all the other roles. Do you enjoy wearing multiple hats, or is there a preferred path if you had the chance to just focus on one or two things?
so I'm very grateful to have, from when I was 11, have to do all those things, figure those things out. So I can confidently say I'm fairly mediocre at a lot of things, but I've by being the one having to build the sets, do the sound design, do the editing, set up the lights, shoot it, I've developed a way to communicate with people who are exceptional at those individual fields, and that's something I'm very much so looking forward to doing, especially with my next project, is
So,
collaborating
so you're saying by
with
being
more
being your
artists.
own being your own camera operator, cinematographer, learning how to physically set up and position lights and change the brightness, everything, that you feel that moving forward, when you are just in the director's chair, communicating with that DP through pre-production things will be easier because you can speak the language versus just say, I want a pretty shot. Like you can much more specifically, communicate your vision.
Absolutely, yeah, and especially with the DP that was on Where the Shadows Fall. He's also my co-writer too. So the advantage there is we know why every word in that script
Mm.
is on that page and what it's aiming to achieve. And yeah,
Cinematographer slash DP or slash writer. You don't hear that often, but what a great advantage, because then they truly know the story as well as you do. And probably through the co-writing process, I would imagine you've been able to like talk about, we'd shoot this like this. So you're writing very specifically for exactly how you will eventually execute it. Yeah.
exactly. And based on his experience and what he's told me and talking to other DP cinematographers, they don't really get that opportunity in the indie game to be there from the ground up. They're there like, hey, we're about to shoot next week. Are you available? And they're kind of figuring it out for
Mhm.
the most part when they're on set. And it's the experience on Where the Shadows Fall. It was invaluable having him there from the beginning. Yeah, the way our set ran was just so efficient. I attribute it to him and his willingness to start from the ground up with me to see the vision through from start to finish.
It's nice that your pre-production is already happening as you type every word on the page. That's got to be a massive advantage. Where the Shadow Falls. I've gone to step two before step one. Tell us what the film is about, and
Sure.
where the sort of idea came from.
Sure. It's about a serial killer who's caught in the act of kidnapping his latest victim by a rogue photographer, and he's pinned in a situation of, do I handle the kidnapping or do I go track down this loose end? And we see how the decisions that this character makes.
It,
And
I was going to say, in a very positive way. It's got like a Nightcrawler vibe. If you've seen the Jake Gyllenhaal movie, like that's sort of just
yeah,
like underworld, the seediness of middle of the night while everyone else is asleep. There's only a
mhm.
few people that are kind of like aware of what's going on, or have the chance to intervene in anything that could be happening out there in the world.
Yeah, that was an aspect that we had discussed, was in the exteriors as we're going through the city and stuff like that, really making her feel isolated, even though we have shots of long city streets and stuff like that. There's no one else moving. So the idea of them being isolated in an environment where people typically aren't was really interesting.
Where
But
was the film shot?
it was shot in Akron, Cleveland, and Cleveland Heights.
And you're based in Ohio as well, then?
Yeah. Yeah.
Tell me about casting the film. Where did you find Eric, Chrissy, and Kinsley?
So Chrissy, she's a longtime friend. When I first started to put myself out there in the local Cleveland film scene, she's the first person who really believed and stuck by me. So she was always going to be a part of it. And, you know, going back into the making of this movie, and it leads into the actors, is I was very limited. It was, okay, 2 people, no one can talk, 3 locations, as few setups as possible so we can get as many takes, since I won't have time to work with these actors, because I didn't even have a car at the time. So every dollar, as we were discussing before, every dollar was going towards making that happen. And Kinsley, I just put something out on Facebook. I need somebody. I need an extra, and she volunteered. She came on set, and then Eric. I had cast another local actor who's a friend of mine, but the schedules got conflicted, and he wasn't able to show. So Chrissy called this guy, and while I think my friend would have done great, we enjoyed the fact that this guy was much bigger, much more intimidating than the individual who I'd cast before. So it all worked out.
You get that Terminator effect where they weren't going to they wanted Arnold Schwarzenegger as the good guy originally in the movie, and then when they put him as the bad guy, it becomes much more imposing and intimidating.
Yeah, absolutely.
So growing up, what's the film scene like growing up in Ohio versus Los Angeles? You know, are there advantages to coming up in a film scene outside of sort of one of the main hub cities?
I would say so. It's easier to be noticed, especially if you are diligent in how people perceive you based on your reputation, how you conduct yourself, and all that. If you're, you know, one of the cats out there who is known to work hard, they have a vision, and they'll take care of you at the end of the day. That word travels fast in any local film scene, and it's put me in a position where I feel very confident and fortunate to have the people around me that I have, because it's easier to get noticed out here if you're doing it the right way.
Have you taken part in the Cleveland Film Festival? I never have, but I hear wonderful things about that festival.
So Where the Shadows Fall actually got into the
nice.
Cleveland International Film Festival, but it was last year. And when the pandemic hit, they ended up canceling the event and just went to a streaming festival. So I didn't actually get to go last year to represent Where the Shadows Fall at the festival.
Tell me about the music and the sound design in the film, which I told you privately, when I first saw the film, how much I enjoyed sort of what that adds, the layer of sort of suspense it brings to the project.
Thank you. Yeah. So the composer is a musician named Tony McFaney, based out of Nashville. But I met him first, and he actually introduced me to Chrissy. But we always had the same taste in music and movies, and he did the score for this at no cost. But we had a lot of discussions, and I actually wrote out like a whole document, not saying add synths here or anything like that, but just conveying, because it is a silent movie, what is this atmosphere, what's going through the character's head, what's the tempo, all that stuff. And he just went to work. And as far as the sound design goes, I did the first pass on that myself, because in a silent film, you want to be meticulous in where certain sounds go. especially when you're
when you're
trying to
saying
develop an atmosphere.
when you're saying silent film, you mean a film without dialogue versus
Yeah,
a
without
truly
dialogue. Yeah.
silent film. It's an interesting exercise that I think all filmmakers should attempt at least once, because dialogue, it's too easy to explain things away, and so often I'll give a quick example. I like the movie You're Next a lot. Wonderful, fun film. But there's one bit where somebody says, like, how are you so good at fighting? And she says, oh, I grew up, my dad was a survivalist in the outback of Australia and he just taught me. And I'm like, you can't just throw one line in to justify like an entire story. But
Yeah.
often, screenplays, independent film, they're talked to death versus like visually showing you. One of the best lessons I was ever taught by a high school film teacher of all things was you should be able to turn a movie's sound off and still watch it, because it's a visual medium. The shots, the camera angles, the pacing, the actors, like facial reactions, everything should still tell you the basic story, even if you can't hear the dialogue of what's going on. So I think it's an excellent way to build suspense when you remove the dialogue from it. Do you have films that inspired like this particular film or that style of filmmaking?
Well, the no dialogue approach came just through the logistical limitations of where I was at, but it was that challenge of I want to tell a complete story, beginning, middle to end. The audience can follow what's going on, and I wanted a moving shadow, right? Uh, that was always going to be the character that we're following, a shadow that's moving, and it was an exercise on how can I put the audience in his head by being as deliberate and precise with camera angles, close-ups, dolly in, dolly out. Uh, all that stuff adds up to what the character's thinking about. But as far as like the aesthetic, Denis Villeneuve, David Fincher, and Francis Ford Coppola, major influences on my aesthetic and style of storytelling, especially this short film.
I've heard of them. I think I've heard of most of those cats. Uh, Anything else? Any fun stories from shooting it? Anything on set? Funny, like adversity, things that you had to overcome that were unexpected during production.
It was so smooth. Actually, we really didn't have any hiccups whatsoever. Um, there's a couple funny behind the scenes stories. There's one that would kind of uh, give context to the ending, so I want to do that one, but I can't for the opening. If you're not an indie filmmaker unless you've had the cops called on you.
This is true. This is very, very true.
And it wasn't the first time, and it's in the opening of it, but the girl, she gets kidnapped and all that, and I had her screaming and all that. We're in this parking garage, and we're actually right next to a little strip mall where there's a couple bars. So we had a grip truck that was like blocking most of the lighting and the camera equipment. So anybody passing by just saw this big, giant, shadowy figure grabbing this woman from her trunk, and she's screaming away. And we had a couple cats come running towards us, but there were a few other people on set that like calmed them down and all that. And anytime somebody realizes, oh, you're shooting a movie, they switch immediately, and it was a good time.
Yeah,
Cops came, and he
there's
was super cool
don't
about
want
it.
to get political here, but you don't want to give the cops the wrong idea about anything you're doing. Always good to call ahead when possible. But I mean, the general like rule of independent film is what it ask permission later, like don't ask permission first, because often it's a no. Just sort of like do it and then apologize, sorry, apologize later rather than ask for permission first. And that's how
Yeah.
you get to sort of steal all those wonderful shots. I've been in your position. We had a music video that we shot with a rapper that's being like a van pulls up and opens, and four guys jump out and drag him in and take him away. And we were in the back alley of my friend's bar. We're like, oh, this is fine, it's safe. And the cops show up, like guns drawn, everybody on the ground, like the whole bit. And then
Oh my god.
as it gets de-escalated, like, well, we're remote, how did you see us? He goes, and the cop just says, look up, dumbass. He goes, look up. And I look up, and it's just apartment buildings on either side of this parking lot. So there's just all these people on their balconies just staring down at us. It's like maybe I should know the location a little bit better. Maybe I should like have a warning sign, or like, write on a bed sheet and tape it to the top of the van that says it's just a movie for anyone looking down. There are probably smarter ways that I could have avoided the drama. But you're right. It's a badge of honor and a rite of passage that you have to have had the cops called on you at least once, or else you're just
Yeah,
playing it too safe. You're not making
right.
interesting content.
Are you really trying?
Exactly. You're really trying. Awesome. Well, that's all that we have for today. We like to keep these short and sweet, just let people know a bit about you, a bit about making the movie. And for anybody out there, if you're already subscribed to revealmovies.com, check out Where the Shadows Fall. If not, and you're watching on Facebook or YouTube or LinkedIn or Instagram, go set up an account at revealmovies.com. Why haven't you? It's free.
Takes like
You
2 seconds.
don't need a credit card, and there's just piles and piles and piles of short films and features and documentaries and more content being added daily. This is a wonderful alternative to all of the streaming that you're going through saying, I've seen everything. Sign up. It's free. Support indie film. Watch a bunch of great content. And, keep tuning into Reveel'd, where we get to interview wonderful filmmakers like Aaron. I hope we get your next film on Reveal. And I hope that we
I
get the
hope so
next film
too.
after that. And I hope that when this border opens here in Canada, because I'm only about a 4 or 5 hour drive from you,
Yeah.
it's got to be a shot at something we can collaborate on, and then we'll join forces and have something on Reveal. Yeah.
Hey, getting to know you on Clubhouse, that prospect excites me, man.
Clubhouse has been a wonderful tool. You want to give a shout out to the Good Morning Horror fam while we're here?
Hey, shout out to the Good Morning Horror fam, the official watch party, unofficial watch party for a zombie movie close to our hearts.
There you
And
go.
appreciate you guys.
I think, yeah. So Clubhouse, anybody does know, wonderful social media app. It's been great for filmmakers, and it's helped me meet filmmakers like Aaron and help get their work on Reveal so that we can circle back around and do this show. So once again, watch Where the Shadows Fall. Aaron, pleasure chatting with you today.
Hey, great chatting with you, Gavin. Thanks.